Greetings, Dr. John Taylor Kent here. Thanks for joining me today. We have some serious stuff to talk about, and I've been delaying this long enough, mostly because this could get me kicked off YouTube completely. So I have to be very careful. As you know, I'm a retired psychologist. My last gig was in corrections. Spent 5 years in the penitentiary. Yes, it affected me okay. Look, the stuff that's going on right now is so dangerous. And we've already got an increase in loss of life. And we're going to have a much greater increase because about the time these children turn 21 or 22, half of them are going to, I can't use the word, I get into trouble, but they're going to self-delete. You know, they're just going to take themselves right out. Now, that's already going to be happening in the cities, according to the Hopi prophecy. And I don't abide by Hopi stuff in particular. I'm not trying to espouse it. But it makes sense, and it fits right in with the biblical narrative as well. And it fits in with my visions of the sun rising in the west. So the Hopi are telling us that's coming. The planet will be set so that the sun will rise in the west, the way it's supposed to be. That evidently some very bad guys up in the sky, some bad sky people is what they say, put the earth in the wrong direction. I've had several visions about that, including the sunset, in which the sun is very close to the earth. It's a beautiful sun, actually a sunrise. It's very beautiful, I mean, because you've got a massive sun taking up most of the horizon, not a little one there. That's what I saw anyway. What am I talking about? Well, I should have done my research for this. But there was a psychologist, I think his name was Eddie Money. I really should look this up, but his last name was Money of all the darn things. And he was doing his research in the 50s at about the same time as that jackass from Indiana that screwed up the whole world, not just our own country. The guy with the fraudulent research who became the sex expert, and they've elected a damn statue in his honor now in Indiana. Indiana owes the entire world an apology for letting that jackass conduct that errant research, that false research. And by the way, Hugh Hefner apparently funded the guy. Kinsey. Albert or Alfred Kinsey. The guy was a pervert. That's all there was to it. He's a weirdo. He was way off the norm. And he did his research during the World War when most of the men were off. And he made us look as perverted as he could look because that's what his mission was. You ever read in the Bible about a talking donkey? You should read the Bible. There's a story about a donkey that talks to his master and basically chews his master out because he saw the angel of death in the canyon there set to murder his master and stopped it from happening. This is the same sin that occurred back in the Old Testament. And we have similar leaders, similar characters playing those. I need you to understand that Dr. Money, psychologist, went and scoured the nation, looked across the whole land, looking for subjects for his grand experiments. And he got a couple. He recruited a couple. There was a pair of twin boys, and one of the boys was mutilated during the circumcision process. And Money talked the parents into, hey, we'll just raise one as a girl. And then there was another set of twins. And he did something similar with them. And so this is sort of anecdotal. You know, it's single subject design, if you will, because you only have a set of twins. And he set about to prove to the world that you could raise a boy to be a girl to be a boy. And there was no difference. That was in the 1950s. By the time these young people became adults, they loathed themselves and what they had been turned into, what had happened to them so badly, they self-deleted. They were in agony, very, very agonizing in the depths of their soul, because their identities were stolen from them, basically, and their abilities. You need to understand something. The modern guy's got us thinking in terms of body and soul being separate. That was a deal Descartes made with the Pope at the time. I should remember the name of the Pope. But this stuff I studied so doggone long ago. I mean, we're talking half a century ago when I was in those lectures. Yeah, quite a while ago. So Descartes had been paying grave robbers to bring him bodies. I think it was in Paris at the time. It's just the impression I get right now. And he had already mapped out the nervous systems of cats and did, publish color plates and all that. They were rather expensive books because you didn't have a printing press to do this stuff with at the time. You had to do it by hand. So books were really expensive. And he decided he wanted to tame the big cat. He wanted to do the same thing on human beings. And mind you, the Pope would have put him to death for robbing the grave, and it was against the law of the Pope to desecrate the body. But the Pope, just like today, had spies everywhere. And the Pope knew in advance what Descartes was going to do. And Descartes approached the Pope to get permission so that he could do his work. Well, he'd already done the work. He had already written up the color plates, color charts. He had already basically dissected the human body completely. He had already done the work. He wanted to be able to get permission to publish his book without getting burned at the stake. And so he shows up at the Vatican, and the Bishop of Rome already knew in advance what Descartes was after. And the Bishop of Rome wanted to remain in charge and recognized as the sole authority of the soul. So that's when dualism began. That's when we split the body and the soul. That's when the two men split the baby. And Descartes was able to publish. He made a lot of money off his books, made quite a name for himself. I was fortunate enough to attend lectures in Florence, Italy. And I'm not sure which professor gave this lesson. I think it was Dr. Aranzula, Elizabeth Aranzula. If anybody knows what her maiden name is and where she is today, I'd love to be in touch with Dr. Elizabeth Aranzula. She would be approximately 8 years older than myself. She wouldn't be quite 80 years old right now. She was a very attractive woman, but back then we men minded our P's and Q's. A married woman was off limits. We had respect for our teachers. She was brilliant. I enjoyed her lectures so much I didn't even take notes. I couldn't. And I just locked my eyes upon her and focused upon these wonderful lectures. I wish I'd have taken notes back then. But everybody else I took notes for, but with hers, it was something else. It was like drinking water from a fire hydrant. She divorced her Italian husband and moved back in England. She was also the individual that informed me about my own family, rather indirectly. I don't think she realized what she was telling me herself. I don't think either one of us realized how important it was. But my relative is what gave you in this country, gave us a Lloydal title, patented land. Patented land came from the county of Kent. It was an offshoot of a Lloydal title. A Lloydal title was a title the king could bestow and the king could not take back. Everywhere else in England, the king would give his subjects land and he could take it back, but not in the county of Kent. The county of Kent was an army to itself, so powerful and so important were the Kents in service to the kings and queens that we were given a land grant in the New World in 1649 on Great Bay, Adams Point, was the Kent property. We sold that to the Adams family. And by the way, that's what you were supposed to have. You were supposed to have patented land, land which could not be attached, it could not be taken from you, it couldn't be taxed. They couldn't touch it, just like it was in ancient Israel. Because in case you're wondering, the Israelites founded this nation. The real Israelites, the real descendants of the man Israel, founded the United States of America. And the United States of America is mentioned in the book of Genesis, towards the end when Israel was on his deathbed. Well, there were two scenes, if you will. There was another one where he got his boys together and he told them about their characters and described the coat of arms, which became the coat of arms for the countries that they founded later. So right now, in case you're wondering, the FBI is busy calling you a white supremacist just because you're white. And they're busy out there trying to capture people doing bad things. They're ordered to find white supremacism and set us up and take us down and charge us. So don't do anything that doesn't feel right at all. Don't get suckered into taking up any causes right now, because I'll tell you, the FBI is out there recruiting like crazy, and they've been doing that for decades to us. So the evil ones are trying to kill the original founders of America. There's no such thing as white supremacism. There's Jewish supremacism, but even that isn't quite accurate. Don't think of it that way. That's just one level. Let me take you to other levels. Revelations 2:9 and 3:9 says, this is Yahshua the Messiah saying, and this is John the Apostle on the island of Patmos writing down what you call him Jesus. You call him Jesus Christ. I call him Yahshua the Messiah. And he said in Revelations 2:9 and 3:9 about the same thing. And if you go to Revelations 4:9, it sort of echoes those mildly, if you will. I don't usually share that because it's not a real obvious, strong triple witness, but there's a strong dual witness. I know you who say you are Jews and are not. So Yahshua is telling us way back then, when John's on the island of Patmos at about the age of 80, and John was the youngest of the apostles. And so John probably wrote that in about 90 AD, maybe a little after. And Yahshua's telling us they say they're Jews, but they ain't Jews. So you people that want to go after the Jews wholesale, do that at your own peril. Don't you dare include me. Please don't get me wrong. I don't like their organized religion. I don't like my own organized religion. I think all of those things were used to lead us astray. They're all like Judas goats. And I think those people are misled as well. Now, there was one other tell in the Bible, in the New Testament, in which Yahshua confronts a group of Jews in the court, in the temple. And this group of Jews says they never were slaves, and they were actually being honest, true, and correct in their report, because they were Edomites. They were not Jews. Their father was the father of all lies, which is said in the New Testament, is it not? So if it doesn't say what I'm telling you right now, then put it in the comments. Do like this video. If you want to support me, buy my Bible. Don't send me your money. I don't want your charity, although I could use it, to be honest with you. What I want from you is I want you to buy my Bible. The link's in the description. Copy it and paste it. You'll be led to a page with drop-down menus so you can select which version you want. If you want a large print, or if you want a standard print, or if you want a tab copy or a non-tab copy. She's like a child. She knows I'm busy, so she's going to act up. Quiet. No teeth. Going to get you a damn muzzle. Yeah. I got to put a muzzle on her. She's just not listening to me enough. And I'm spoiling the heck out of her, but the bond is pretty firm at this point. It's firm enough that if I was to yell at her, she would stop in her tracks and do what I said, which is what I got to have, especially with a dog as powerful as this one. She is powerful. But another dog attacked her in the bark park last week and hurt her badly. And then the people in the bark park the woman who owned the dog was pretty nasty. She said her dog would never hurt my dog. Their dog's just playing. Well, I stepped in on the third attack and got her dog off my dog. So that dog attacked my dog's neck twice. And then of all the darn things, I decided, hey, I better report this to the park police. And I did report it. Turns out they let a group take over the bark park, the dog park. And so they're dominating it. There's going to be a lot more trouble over there because they got children over there that are not being monitored. One of the little boys went up and put his hand, after I told him not to, in my dog's mouth. He put his hand in my dog's mouth. This is a Belgian Malinois. You know, the nickname is Maligator. There's a reason for that. And he went up, and his older brother, when I told him try to take the ball from my dog's mouth, let me get it, he backed off. But his little brother went right in. And I had to yell at the top of my lungs because the parents were not watching the boys. I don't know who his father is out there, but somebody came out there and said that the father wanted to kick my ass because of my language. I yelled at his boys. Yes, I yelled at his boys. And then the park ranger let that go by, and I did too. But those people, and then I found out that the man lied to me, about me to the park ranger. So if they're willing to gang up and willing to lie, there's going to be a lot more problems there. So we'll let that go. Anyway, what I want to get at is that there was a big, bad confrontation in the church, in the temple. And this was just before the crucifixion. Remember that confrontation? Joshua went into the temple and he formed a whip, I guess out of ropes. He fashioned a whip. And who did he use it on? Yeah, you're Jesus, you think, is picking flowers on the damn hillside, who's a pansy and will never stand up for righteousness and never do anything to harm anybody because he's pure love. He formed a whip. He overturned the tables of the money changers, the people who were changing money and selling, not quite trinkets, but selling pigeons and doves and selling things to people so that they would have something to sacrifice. In less than a week, the Messiah was hanging on that tree, along with the other two. So basically, the bad guys are the banksters. It's already been pointed out. So let's get blatant about it. The bankers in this country are horrible. They're running the nation today. They're debasing our currency as fast as they can. They're destroying the currency, and you all are running around thinking, well, we're going to get a digital currency. No, they're destroying the country, and they're destroying you and me. They're genociding us. They've already done stuff so that most of us around this place right now will not survive the next 10 years. The vast majority of us will not survive the next 10 years. I include myself in that. I might have 6 years, I might have 15 years, I just don't know. Another man spoke to my fate earlier on. Looks like I'm on track for it. I kind of don't care. I don't care not because I want to self-delete. I don't care because, as long as I'm useful and I accomplish my mission, that's all that matters. I want to turn you into a Bible reader. Push your way through the Bible. You get to tedious passages of genealogies, whatever, just push on through. It'll mean more later on. Just go for, you want to learn the names of the characters, the plot. Character development is a real good thing to attend to. And you're going to see all kinds of family dysfunction and other tells in there. And these things are written at so many levels. I mean, there's 3, 4, 5, maybe a half a dozen levels in one passage. we're told about the bad guys. And Yahweh says, this was so bad, Yahweh says in the Bible several times, it never even crossed my mind. It never even crossed his mind. It was so evil. And then if you read between the lines and read on, you realize that they were passing their children, putting their children through the fire. They were sacrificing their children to their gods, especially Moloch. And if you look up me on Facebook, you will see yesterday, or maybe the day before, I think it was yesterday, I posted a WordPress video. And I call upon the Jews, the good Jews, to give an accounting for why they had 150,000 Jews in 1933 on Soldiers Field in Chicago worshiping Moloch in public. Now, maybe what I saw wasn't what I thought it was, or wasn't what it looked like. But it requires an accounting. We can't have people that go pretending even to sacrifice babies and children to some weird kind of a cross between a pig and a calf god. It's pretty weird. The main point I want to get across to you is I'm here trying to awaken Israel, my brothers and sisters in Israel. When our nation was founded, we were Bible readers, and we read a good version of the Bible that hadn't been screwed up and polluted and obscured and turned upon us to brainwash us. And we knew who we were, and we knew who the bad guys were at that time. But the bad guys hadn't invaded the nation all that much. They had one stronghold in Rhode Island, and George Washington was in error when he approved their presence. Yeah, Washington made a really big, bad mistake. And Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, one other gentleman warned us about this particular group and what they were going to do. And they have done exactly what Jefferson said they would do, exactly what Franklin said they would do. And so right now, you think they're just debasing the currency. Oh no. Oh no. They're destroying us from within. They're going to bring in 100 million illegal aliens. Yeah. They're building huge places for them to live in the middle of the country right now. Different parts of the country. I don't have that data. Please go look it up. Make a comment down below. Inform me. Inform the rest of us. The banking system was founded by some people who claimed they were Jews and were not, but are of the house, the synagogue of Satan. Their original name was Bauer before they changed it to Red Shield, Rothschild. And the Red Shield was after the red star of Moloch. There is no Star of David in the Bible. It's the Star of Remphan. Several names for the same God down there. Anyway, I'm going to cut this short right about now. Feel like I've gotten off course. The main thing you need to realize is by reading the Bible, you'll be protected. You will be summoning Yahweh, Creator, Father in heaven. You will be less prone to being deceived. Read the Bible and ignore what the pastors are saying in the big box churches. They're all 501c corporations beholding to the United States Treasury Department, required to preach what the Treasury Department tells them to preach. The number one thing they have to preach is all men came from Adam. No, all men did not come from Adam. If we take a word study, there are some phrases for some of the other men, and there are words for some of the other men. But there's two words for Adam, two forms of that word. And there's two forms for the original earthy man that was here first, the Enosh, or Enosh we. So we're not all the same. And you want me to take it to the outer limits? Fine, I'll put it in outer space. I think that we were brought here and settled from different planets around the universe. Kind of a giant experiment to see what happens. To see if we can pull our lot up. To see who wins. This is the fight of good and evil. Cain came from Eve. Eve was the mother of all the living. However, the other boy, Seth, was Adam's son. Cain was not Adam's son. Cain was Gadriel's son. From Gadriel, we get Gad, or God. So they tossed that in there to screw us up as well. So learn Creator Father's real name, Yahweh. You're going to need it. It's time we started calling upon that name once again. Read Genesis. You'll see where men started to call upon the name of Yahweh. And when you read the accounting of Eve reporting that she has a man-child with the help of Yahweh, Eve had been deceived. Eve became a deceiver. She wasn't telling the truth. She was hoping her child would be accepted as the son of Yahweh, as Yahweh being the father. She was hoping to be able to sell Adam on that, perhaps, or hoping to be able to account for her own behavior, excusing as well, I had sex with Creator Father, not with one of the fallen angels. By the way, there's an error in the Bible. Yeah, including the new one. It says, or Yahweh's talking to Eve, his daughter, saying, giving her basically her sentence, if you will. And your desire shall be for your husband. What was her desire for before her husband that got her into trouble? It's a good question. You got an answer? Comments, please. I want to learn something. I think we've dropped out a couple of words. I think what that passage should read is, and your desire shall be to rule over your husband. Because women always want to dominate. And when women dominate, there's problems. Except under one circumstance. When it comes to taking care of children and defending children, women were given extra capacities over a man, specifically for the purposes of motherhood. And when a woman misuses that extra capacity in womanly ways to seduce or, moreover, to manipulate, she drives herself crazy. By manipulating, by lying, by giving a false narrative, by forcing the wrong reality on us, like political correctness, there's trouble. Bad trouble. And that's what's happened in our society. They're forcing false reality upon us. They're forcing us to be tolerant to the point where they're able to mutilate the children. And most of these children, when they become adult age, my God, the self-deletion rate is going to go up. Look, I'm kind of an expert in that stuff. And I decided to refresh my knowledge base. And the rates have skyrocketed. We used to have a stable rate. We would self-delete at a rate of 20,000 a year. And we would delete the other son of a bitch at the rate of about 10,000 a year. So we were doing 2 to 1 self-deletion to homicide. And it was mostly men. But in case you're wondering, the only reason you all don't understand that college-age co-eds have got a huge, high self-deletion rate is because the boys and girls coming back from the wars have been self-deleting at a much higher rate. Otherwise, that would have made the news. I went and did a little research on the college campuses at the time to see what was going on. The other thing I can tell you is the predominant method now for the co-eds, for these young women to self-delete, aren't what they used to be. They don't take an easy way out of overdosing on pills and pain medicine or downers. They're using firearms and they're hanging themselves. That's a pretty serious message. So, right now, it used to be that the suicide rate was constant over the whole planet. It just shifted regions. Different areas would have a little bit, I said the word, I didn't mean to let that out, sorry. Different regions would have a different proclivity towards it. But it was pretty constant across the planet. So basically, it was kind of like a misery index. And the misery shifted. However, today, the misery is here in the United States. And if you think it's bad now, wait till about 7 years from now, when these little boys and girls that are getting these physical alterations and permanent mutilation, permanent self-mutilation, permanent help mutilating themselves from these doctors. When they finally wake up and realize what they have done and what they allowed to have happen to them. Yeah. And you're being told you have to be tolerant. So this is where I tell you, remember that story or that phrase, if it saves one child? We need to put an end to that stuff. The doctors, the nurses, the professionals that are participating in that mutilation need to be yanked of their licenses to practice at the least, if not tried for the assaults, the batteries, and the murders. I wish I could help you folks more. This is going up on Awakening Israel. I don't have a 1,000 views yet. This is going to be my lesser populated channel. I don't want to commercialize, and try to make money off this platform because I'm fearful there would be more scrutiny. There was a wonderful judgment in Texas in the last couple of days in which Facebook lost its privilege of being able to censor political speech anymore. So the same thing will be making its way across all of these electronic platforms. But I want you to understand, the same people that control the banking institutions control big tech. It's all the same group. It's like a many-headed hydra. Who can do war against him? Who can wage war against him? Folks, you're going to have to fight it spiritually, even though they're poisoning us left and right. You want to know what most of your mental illnesses are caused from? Spiking of the food with heavy metals. Just enough to make a difference. And so they don't get caught. The number one metal? Manganese. It used to be an infant soy formula in Cheerios. What's it do? It accumulates in the basal ganglia, at the corpus callosum, causes misfires in the brain, takes a child's sensations out of sync, puts them in a whole new time zone, really screws things up. Yes, they can be detoxed, but there's many other ways in which they give us autism and Asperger's. Okay, I've covered a lot of information here today. Do share this video. Do share this new Bible. By the way, it was my ancestor who brought you the original King James Bible. But we really can't. Well, I guess we can talk about it now. The Queen is safe. Oh, and in case you're wondering, you think you're free in the United States of America? No, no, no. You're in Slavelandia. All the people in the Orient, the average person knows this is a slave society. That's how they regard us. And Lincoln did not free the slaves. Lincoln enslaved us all with the 14th Amendment, which is not the law of the land, was not properly enacted, voted on, ratified. It needs to go away. I know that should go on the other channel since it's more political. Well, Yahweh bless. Talk to you soon.